Hi, John. Is this show divisive?
I don't know. There are far more, so there's a lot of vocal people about it, but nowhere near as divisive as, say, Star Wars had been or anything like that. I think generally speaking, the general audience has been quite enjoying it.
Wrong!
Nerdrotic.com.
It felt only natural to us that an adaptation of Tolkien's work would reflect what the world actually looks like, says Lindsay Weber, executive producer of The Rings of Power. I think it should be pretty clear now that when you hear a statement like that when it comes to any show now, that is the kiss of death. J.D. Payne, co-showrunner of The Rings of Power, describes the upcoming series as the novel Tolkien never wrote. More like the novel the professor would never write. And let's not forget that the second word in the very first quote from the very first press release was diverse, epic, diverse, and filled with heart, says J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay in a joint statement. Well, you got one right. It's diverse, coming up a bit short on the epic and completely devoid of the heart. And now we know exactly why Amazon really refrained from talking about the actual show very much in the 6-month lead up to this complete disaster, because they knew that's exactly what they had on their hands. And the only card they had left to play was using diversity and identity as a shield, and they have been caught in 4K, as the kids say, or the boomers, I'm not really sure at this point, when they deleted 5,000 reviews from the meager, paltry 15,000 reviews that are on Prime Video, and they were so embarrassed when they got called out by channels like RK Outpost and The Quartering that they put them back. Oh, and remember the Superfans? Well, they're not even watching the show.
A lot of talking about my girl Galadriel.
Yeah, I love Galadriel.
Which is better, House of the Dragon or Rings of Power? Well, I haven't watched Rings of Power yet because I'm going to binge it. I don't want to watch them both at the same time. And House of the Dragon started first. So I was already taken, so I've got to wait. So I don't know. But so far, House of the Dragon's really good, so Rings of Power's got to do big things if it's going to be better than that one.
You want to be, remember? I know what you did. You're a damn predator. All right, just get the hell out of here, huh?
We're halfway through this boring abomination, and quite frankly, we're on the downhill slide of a show that started at the bottom. Not really sure how that works, but The Rings of Power managed it. The Rotten Tomatoes audience score seems to be stuck at 39%. Maybe RT's just being merciful there. The Metacritic score is a whopping 2.9, and of course, the IMDb score is a lot different. It's 6.9 out of 10. I'm sure that has nothing to do with them being owned by Amazon. I'll ask you, dear viewer, the over 544,000 of you out there, thank you, and to the 43% who haven't subscribed to this channel yet. Does it feel like a hit? Are people gushing about this positively in the pop culture sphere? Are you discussing it with your pals at work around the water cooler? Are new YouTube channels popping up with their Sauron theory videos getting thousands of views when everyone should know it's Halbrand? Or does it feel like what it is? A giant, repurposed, but diverse, billion-dollar flop? Quite possibly the biggest in history. And yes, I'm stealing this from my friend Az at Heel vs. Babyface. Who knew that Amazon hired an intimacy coordinator for the fandom because we're the ones getting fucked? All right, I've put this off long enough, and I know you want me to stop pussyfooting around. Let's talk about the 5th episode of The Rings of Girl Power, which is titled Partings, but I think a more appropriate title would be Fartings.
There's a tempest in me.
So where did we leave off last time? The Harfoots were migrating, Galadriel was being insufferable, Halbrand was being Sauron, the Stranger is a mystery, Adar is a mystery, the Hadad activists and Don Lemonless, guess who's coming to second breakfast, are trapped at the Watchtower, and the Númenóreans are going to sail to Middle-earth. Sorry, spoilers. By the end of this episode, the Harfoots are still migrating, Galadriel's still being insufferable, Halbrand is still Sauron, the Stranger's still a mystery, Adar is still a mystery, guess who's coming to second breakfast is still trapped at the Watchtower, and the Númenóreans have decided again to sail to Middle-earth. Okay, we might have learned a few minor details that progressed this show that's going at a snail's pace, inches forward, but that was far outweighed by the total destruction of Tolkien's lore. My one big takeaway from this episode is the elves are as big assholes as the Harfoots, but not as much as the people who run this show and put it out. We did get a break from the Harfoots last episode, thank God for small favors, but unfortunately they're back with female Frodo and totally not Gandalf. And like the true bad reboot disciples these hack writers are, or graduates of repurposing school, we get a repurposed Strider's riddle set to a horrible song.
Through cold and through frost, that not all who wander or wander are lost.
In the following scene with Adar, or Adar, I don't really care what he's called, we get some more of that trademark Rings of Power repeating things we already know. We're shown once again that the orcs don't like the sun and their skin burns it, except for the times it doesn't. We did get a crumb of new information in this scene. Adar, or Adar, wants to do something with the sun. It probably has something to do with bringing in a new age of orcs because these hack writers can't come up with anything original and they can only repurpose. By the way, Adar, or Adar, or whatever the hell he's called, is just an elf, but he created the orcs. Now, how can just an elf create the orcs? The orcs that were originally created by Morgoth? I don't even know why I bother at this point. It's not like J.D. Payne or Patrick McKay give a crap. 5 episodes in, it's pretty damn clear that the showrunner's mantra of going back to the book was just to get names and places for Easter eggs. Oh, did we say adapt the lore? We meant assault it. Meanwhile, back in Hadadville, remember we had to wait an entire episode to hear that the message from Adar, or Adar, was surrender or die. Well, they're gonna finally deliver that message to the people, and Girl Boss Bronwyn is gonna get her big girl boss moment with a big girl boss speech.
I know I'm not the king you have awaited, but if you choose to stand with me and fight, this tower will no longer be a reminder of our frailty, but a symbol of our strength. Who will stand with me? Who among you will stand and fight?
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Well, that was inspiring. Not surprised half the people left when the tweaker gave an equally inspiring speech.
I'll say this for our ancestors. They lived!
Man, that Bronwyn girl boss speech was so different from Muriel's girl boss speech from last week. I understand Amazon had some limitations. I mean, they only had $1 billion to spend, but maybe you should have spent a little more on the writers. Head of the Tolkien Society, Sean Gunnar, wasn't kidding when he unironically tweeted that the Rings of Power will pass the Bechdel test. Unfortunately, it's not passing the Tolkien test. Oh, and I have a question when it comes to Hadadville. Can't they just leave? I mean, since we're completely screwing with the lore at this point, why not send everyone from Hadadville up north or to the west to Numenor? You're missing a great opportunity here, Amazon, for an immigration allegory. I'm just kidding. I gotta stop giving him ideas. There's a boring scene with Elendil and Isildur. Apparently he doesn't know what he's looking for, and apparently the showrunners can't explain what he's looking for either, because I have no idea and I don't care. Alls I know is this show should be focused on characters like Gil-galad, Elendil, and Isildur, and they are just C-list characters, maybe B- list characters, and they're all idiots. And no, I have no idea where Celeborn is, but more on that later. Then we get some Halbrand, forging because he's totally not Sauron. Then a Numenorian moron guard informs him he has visitors, and then Halbrand, goes and visits somebody.
What? Southlander? Your visitors.
Halbrand, who had visitors, goes to visit Galadriel and Queen Regent Muriel. Remember Queen Regent Muriel? She gave such a powerful speech last episode that I completely forgot it. You know, the one that was picked by her people to be Queen Regent. Well, apparently, she's a battle commander, too. I think the character of Muriel beautifully encapsulates everything wrong with this show. Yes, she was from the lore. Yes, she was destined for the throne of Numenor, but it was taken when Ar-Pharazôn forced her into marriage. She never was a Queen Regent. She never was a battle commander who went into battle. She never met Galadriel. But what they needed was another girl boss, because this show is short on them. That reminds me, I forgot to mention the very brief appearance of Chicka Chicka Slim Lady, or Feminem. And I know what you're thinking. That guy's got a nice rack, but that guy is another girl boss. boss. Slim Lady and these ladies are inspecting the area where Totally Not Gandalf landed. And you've already seen 95% of this in the trailer. Where was I? Oh, back in Numenor, Muriel gets called away, and then we get some forced argument between Halbrand and Galadriel. This whole show is about just filling time and creating content. Forced dialogue that ends up repeating itself. Forced themes that end up repeating themselves. All so we can get to a destination we know we're going to end up at in a couple of episodes if anybody's awake or cares. 5 episodes in and we're still in the same place with Sauron. Sorry, Halbrand. He's still the reluctant leader, the Southern Aragorn, who's going to be set up to subvert our expectations and be Sauron. Even if I didn't know he was Sauron, I'd still think he was Sauron because I got that in the first episode. And just in case you didn't catch it the first time, the Harfoots are assholes.
Take their wheels and leave them.
Who are being tracked by wolves. You know how I can tell? Well, they saw a wolf track and then said, hey, it's wolves.
Wolves.
No shit, Sherlock.
Then they get attacked by bad CGI wolves, and quite frankly, I was rooting for the bad CGI wolves. For the book readers, that scene was supposed to be a callback to when the Fellowship was surrounded by wargs on their way to Moria. And we have arrived at the worst scene in this show. I know I said that last week with the Galadriel escape. Well, this time, it's worse, just like this show is getting worse. Galadriel trains Numenorians. To describe how ridiculous this is, it's like the Virgin Mary training Spartans. Just a reminder, Numenorians aren't just regular men, they're Ubermen. They live longer, they're smarter, they're stronger, they're faster, and they're fierce warriors. And I didn't think it was possible, but to make things worse, they have Elendil the Tall, who in the books is 7'11" and one of the fiercest Numenorian warriors, asked Galadriel to train his men. Oh, sorry, and women, or woman. Oh my god, she might be non-binary. And what's Galadriel, the Girlbarians warrior, the Wastelands, commander of the Northern armies and scourge of the orcs, big advice for the Numenorians?
There are many ways to kill an orc. But for you, I will keep it strong and simple. Stab, twist, gut.
Well, duh.
That's right, it's to stab them with the sword. Then we get a Numenorian dance-off.
Morpheus is fighting Neo.
The acting was awful, the editing was terrible, and you can tell they were trying to hide Morphin Clark as much as possible, having her walk behind giant beams or conveniently get blocked by somebody or cut away. I mean, what the hell is this? I mean, this is just embarrassing. And then she gives terrible advice.
Swordsmanship is about balance rather than strength. Fight with your feet, not your arms.
What are you, f***ing stupid?
Don't plant roots. Keep moving. Never trust brute force to best an orc.
Meanwhile, with Adar and those very white orcs, they're finished digging their big-ass trench. We also learned after Tweaker bent the knee that Adar doesn't like being called Sauron. Then he makes Tweaker kill Inseldril. What I'll probably end up saying in the rest of these reviews, the stupid doesn't end there. Like the repurposing hacks these fools are, the showrunners felt the need to give an origin to mithril, an ore. It doesn't need an origin. It's probably based on orichalcum, which is the mysterious metal from Atlantis. According to the Rings of Power, the origin of mithril is an elf fought a Balrog over a tree. And then we get garbage access media headlines like this, and as a Tolkien fan, it just infuriates me. Rings of Power Episode 5 rewrites the origins of Middle-earth's most precious metal. It's more like Rings of Power retards the origins of Middle-earth. And then we get this cockamamie subplot soap opera crap with the elves. Gil-galad sent Elrond to Khazad-dûm. Gil-galad lied to Elrond. Elrond is keeping the truth from Gil-galad. He was also keeping the truth from Durin. Then we find out that Grandma Brimbor was lying to Elrond too.
Give me the meat and give it to me raw.
And I got news for you. That means you're gay.
Apparently, a cancerous tree in Linden shows that the light of the Eldar is fading and the elves might have to leave Middle-earth or die. Their big savior? Mithril, which now apparently contains the light of the Cimmerils, and they've just turned mithril into a MacGuffin. A MacGuffin, according to the Oxford Dictionary, is an object or device in a movie or a book that serves merely as a trigger for the plot. But the ring was a MacGuffin? Sure, an argument can be made. You'd be wrong, but one could be made. Big difference. The Lord of the Rings is good. The Rings of Power is shit. We had the dumbest scene, and now we have, again, the most, I guess I gotta use this word again, infuriating. There's some forced dialogue between Galadriel and Halbrand, and they completely telegraph that he's Sauron, but they also give Galadriel an opportunity to mention her husband, Celeborn, and she doesn't.
For every mystery, there is someone somewhere who knows the truth. Perhaps that someone was watching.
Have you seen this elf? Incidentally, we're just 2 episodes away from finding out that Celeborn is indeed dead. The reason he's dead in season 1 anyway is because they didn't want to rob Galadriel of her agency and they wanted to ship her with Halbrand. Hashtag Thorondriel. Meanwhile, in Harad Tucky, we get some incredibly boring and forgettable dialogue, kind of like this entire show. And then Theo finally shows Don Lemonless his sword hilt. And lucky for both of them, Don Lemonless has seen that before on a wall about 3 feet away. And this is all setting up something completely different from the Battle of Helm's Deep in the 2 towers. This is going to be the Battle of Harad Tucky with 1 tower. The episode ends with the Númenóreans doing exactly what they set out to do last episode, and they just repeated it. They're sailing to Middle-earth. Sure, I skipped some stupid stuff because I just don't have time to get it all. Yes, a couple of ships blew up from some wine casks that had the power of tactical nukes, and they're going into battle against a legion of orcs with 300 cosplayers and 2 girl bosses. The Rings of Power had the worst publicity rollout in history. Massive ratios on every video they released about this show. Massive ratios on other people's videos talking about their videos. Amazon caught manipulating reviews, deleting reviews, to this day, caught paying off reviewers. Then there's the show itself. Horrific directing, editing, acting, writing, pacing. Your aesthetic mental map is garbage, and you use maps. The worst lead in living memory. Crap costumes, crap props. You had to copy and paste actors on your Haradville set. The laughable fight choreography. This is cosplay. It's fan fiction. It's embarrassing. But to be fair, they only had $60 million an episode, but they did manage to be diverse and pass the Bechdel test. They just forgot to be good. Rings of Power is getting destroyed, deservedly so, and don't let some smug hack shill tell you you're a small vocal minority. No, you are the large vocal majority. Keep it up. If you like what you heard, please like, share, and subscribe. If you didn't like what you heard, I thank you for listening this long. I will see you in the next video.
Nerdrotic.com.
Cast it into the fire! Destroy it!
Give it to me raw.